Okay, so it has finally arrived. The cordless Dewalt compound miter saw. And this one, of course, has the slider mechanism. So what this is going to allow me to do is complex cuts on trim, hopefully with a higher quality cut than the saw I've been using, which has been a worn-out Ryobi. The Ryobi saws have done well for me, but I've used them a lot, and it's just getting a little worn out. My better Ryobi saw was stolen last year, and then replacements were no longer available at Home Depot. So I had been using a used backup saw for a little while. What this is going to do is allow complex cuts on trim. If you see the Dewalt reference videos and you found this video, that's what that boiled down to. So I'm going to try and not make this an infomercial. I'm going to go over to the controls and switches on this type of thing, then we're going to do some cutting demonstrations. Basically, it takes the Dewalt 20-volt battery right here, has the blade motor assembly, 7 1/4 inch blade on these things. We have locking mechanisms for the compound. So, for example, and we've got to make sure we get everything out of there, if we're cutting small lumber, we can lock this in the rear position, or we lock it for storage so it doesn't move. That's what this little knob is going to do. And of course, we can cut at 90-degree angles. Our flapper right up here is relatively standard for that. We're going to flap that down and flap it up and loosen up another bolt so that we can flip that around. We'll get with that here in a minute. But I've got to loosen some stuff up. We've got, of course, the trigger mechanism with a little safety thing. We've got an LED light so you can light the area that you're cutting. We've got a release mechanism so that we can flip this in the upward position. I'm trying to figure out why. Usually the upward position, oh, there we go. We have to press that down, and then that's going to lock. And we can lock that. So it goes up, we press this down, and we lock. Big positive notches here. That's kind of nice. A very beefy mechanism. Okay, so for our tilting, we've got this big knob here. We should be able to just tilt. One of the things I'm noticing is it does only tilt in one direction. So if you need to do cuts the other way, you have to flip your workpiece all the way around. It's not going to be a double tilt. So we've got that set up, and of course you would lock that in place by tightening that down. This mechanism appears to be adjustable and removable, but you would expect to not mess with that once everything's in place. We've got an attachment point for a dust bag or a vacuum. I'm going to be using that probably with the Dewalt cordless vacuum. The adjustments look pretty positive on this. I'll be doing some cutting demonstrations, we'll see it. It does come with a relatively fine-toothed Dewalt blade. Looks like a pretty good one. Got the anti-vibration laser cuts. Again, your laminate flooring is going to beat up these blades, so you still have to look at relatively frequent blade replacement when you're doing laminate flooring, which is what this thing's really going to be made for. When we look at the sliding mechanism on this, that's made to give you enough reach to get into that laminate flooring and take the saw with you instead of having to get up and go to another part of the room to make those cuts at the end of a run of laminate flooring. We've got a nice carry handle here, very heavy duty. One of the things that strikes me about this is it's got that Dewalt heavy duty quality to it, and that's a plus. I would expect something like this. It's going to take a little while to pay for itself. It's a $300 saw. It's not going to pay for itself in the first job the way a Ryobi would. But if also you're using more expensive construction material, you can't afford to waste or the recuts, this thing is going to pay for itself over time in your capability of doing jobs that otherwise you might not be able to do. And for me, this is really going to be the wide format laminate flooring without having to set up a big saw that we have to carry all the pieces outside to do the cutting on. So next we're going to show some cutting demonstrations. So you can see how easily this cuts. Now this is a brand new blade with a very smooth cut. And normally you would want to clamp work like this because it would grab. But here, watch this. And I didn't have to hold that down because it's, you know, it's so new and sharp. But normally you just can't get small battery powered chop saws to do framing lumber like that. Not that easily. Even with premium blades in my Ryobi. Oops. So that's basically the cutting, and normally I couldn't even get a premium blade in a Ryobi to do that sort of a thing. So we'll show some more cutting demonstrations later. Of course, we've got the adjustments here. It's a little tricky. This is actually a locking mechanism. So to unlock it, we do this, and then of course we slide it over the 45-degree angle. It's hard for me to describe in a video how easy this is, but it's a nice, smooth, ball bearing type mechanism when we do that.